The cream-colored envelope felt like sandpaper against my fingertips. I stared at the gold-embossed names, my stomach churning as I traced each letter. You are cordially invited to celebrate the wedding of Holly and Aston. My name is Kayla, and 3 months ago, I was still Mrs. Rivera, until I borrowed my husband's iPad to check our shared calendar and found hundreds of messages that turned my world inside out. You've got to be kidding me, I muttered, tossing the invitation onto my desk. My office door clicked open, and Dustin poked his head in. Hey, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I held up the envelope. Better. I just got invited to my ex-husband's wedding, to my best friend. Holy shit. Dustin stepped inside, closing the door behind him. They didn't. Oh, they did. I laughed, but it came out hollow. Want to hear the best part? The note says, "We hope you can join us in celebrating our special day. No hard feelings." That's... Dustin trailed off, searching for words. Psychotic? Delusional? A new level of narcissistic even for them? I stood up, pacing behind my desk. You know what kills me? I was helping Holly with her startup's legal paperwork when they were sneaking around. She'd come to my house, drink my wine, and tell me about her dating troubles, all while sleeping with my husband. Have you talked to either of them since I found the texts? No. I stopped at my window, staring down at the bustling street below. The last message I saw was Holly asking Aston if he'd told me yet. He replied with, "Soon. Kay's been distracted with work lately. It's perfect timing." My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Hope, who I hadn't spoken to in years. Did you get it too? The invitation? Great, I muttered. Even my estranged sister got an invitation. They really went all out. Dustin picked up the envelope, examining it. This is expensive cardstock. Looks like they're planning quite the event. Of course they are. Holly always said she wanted a fairy tale wedding. I turned back to face him. You know what's funny? When Aston and I got married, she insisted on being my maid of honor. Said she'd always have my back. Kayla. Dustin's voice softened. What are you going to do? I picked up my phone, opening the photos I'd saved from that day. Screenshots of their messages, dating back months. Pictures they'd sent each other from business trips that weren't really business trips. Restaurant receipts from dates they'd had while I worked late at the office. They want me at their wedding? A smile spread across my face, but it wasn't warm. Then I'll give them exactly what they deserve. Why do I feel like you're about to do something either brilliant or terrifying? Because you know me too well. I sat back down, pulling up my email. Remember that dress designer you mentioned? The one who does custom work? Yeah, but... Dustin's eyes widened. Oh no. Oh yes. I started typing. They want to put on a show? Fine. But I'm going to be the one writing the script. My phone buzzed again. Hope. We should talk. There's something you need to know about Aston. I showed Dustin the message. Looks like my little sister's finally ready to spill some secrets. Are you sure you want to go down this road? He leaned against my desk. You've worked too hard to let them destroy your reputation. They already tried that, I said, hitting send on the email. Now it's my turn to return the favor. But I'm not going to destroy anything. I'm just going to tell the truth. In the most spectacular way possible. The invitation sat between us, innocent-looking and lethal. Like everything else about Holly and Aston, it was beautiful on the surface and toxic underneath. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail about me. I didn't become the youngest partner in this firm by backing down from a fight. Besides, I added, picking up my phone to call Hope, they're the ones who invited me to the party. Turn around slowly, Hope said, her hands steady on my shoulders. Let me see how it fits. I faced the mirror in the boutique's private fitting room, and my breath caught. The dress was deceptively simple, a sleek midnight blue sheath that skimmed my curves without being obvious about it. But the real magic was in the details. The fabric, Hope ran her fingers over the subtle pattern embedded in the material. You can barely see it unless you're looking for it. That's the point. I smiled, watching how the light caught the slightly raised text. Hundreds of their messages, woven into the very fabric of the dress. From a distance, it looked like an abstract pattern. Up close, it told their whole sordid story. "When did you become so devious?" Hope asked, adjusting the hem. "Probably around the same time I found out my husband was sleeping with my best friend." I turned to check the back. "Speaking of which, you still haven't told me what happened between you and Aston." Hope's hands froze. "It was 3 years ago. He came to my apartment one night, drunk, said he and you had fought." "Let me guess. October 2020? "Yeah. How did you—" "That was when I was working on the Martinez case. I barely saw him for weeks." I met her eyes in the mirror. "What happened?" "He tried to kiss me. I pushed him away and told him to leave." Hope's voice hardened. "I should have told you then, but he swore it was a one-time mistake. Said he'd never do anything like that again." My phone buzzed on the nearby chair. "Dustin, Clara's asking questions about the wedding. What should I tell her?" "Great," I muttered. "Now my boss is getting involved." "Is that going to be a problem?" Hope asked. "Everything's a problem for Clara." I typed back, "Tell her I'm handling it professionally." The boutique owner, Madame Renee, knocked softly before entering. "How are we feeling about the alterations?" "Perfect," I said, running my hands over the fabric. "The text is exactly how I wanted it." "I must say," Renee adjusted her glasses, "this is the most unusual request I've ever received. Are you sure you want all these messages visible?" "Trust me," I smiled. "They're going to be the talk of the wedding." Hope's phone chimed. She checked it, and her face went pale. Kayla? You need to see this." She handed me her phone. It was an audio message from Holly, clearly drunk, dated just last week. "I know it's awful, but come on. Everyone knew Kayla was just Aston's backup plan. He only married her because his mother pushed for it. God, I can't believe she hasn't figured it out yet." My hands shook, but I kept my voice steady. "Save that. We're adding it to the collection." "Kayla," Hope started. "No." I turned back to the mirror, straightening my spine. "They want to play games? Fine. But they forgot who they're playing with." Madame Renee cleared her throat. "The final fitting will be next week. That gives us time to add any additional material." "Perfect timing," I said. "The wedding's in 3 weeks." After changing back into my work clothes, I checked my messages again. Clara wanted to see me in her office. Dustin had sent 3 warning emojis, and there was a new one from Holly. "I really hope you'll come to the wedding. We need to put this behind us." Hope squeezed my arm. "Are you sure about this? Once you do it—" "What? I'll burn bridges?" I laughed. "They already lit the match. I'm just making sure everyone sees the flames." "Ms. Thompson?" Madame Renee called as we were leaving. "One last thing. The fabric is sensitive to heat. Under bright lights, the pattern becomes more pronounced." I thought about the elaborate lighting setup Holly had described for their first dance. That won't be a problem at all. Outside, Hope hugged me goodbye. "I'm sorry I wasn't there when everything happened. You're here now." I hugged her back. That's what matters. Walking to my car, I checked my reflection in a store window. The woman looking back wasn't the same person who'd found those messages 3 months ago. She was stronger, sharper, and she was just getting started. Clara's office always felt like a freezer, and today was no exception. She sat behind her massive desk, reading glasses perched on her nose, examining what looked suspiciously like the wedding invitation. "Explain this to me, Kayla," she said, not looking up. "Why is my top litigation attorney attending her ex-husband's wedding to her former best friend?" "Would you believe me if I said I'm just really forgiving?" Clara's eyes snapped up. Do I look like I was born yesterday? No, you look like someone who's about to tell me how this could affect the firm's reputation. I sat down, crossing my legs. But before you do, you should know I've already been approached about the Winters class action. That got her attention. The spousal fraud case? Apparently, scorned wives are very interested in lawyers who understand their situation personally. I smiled. The publicity could be significant. Clara removed her glasses slowly. And you think you can handle both? I think watching my husband and best friend betray me has given me unique insight into how these women feel. I leaned forward, and I think the firm could benefit from that perspective. A knock interrupted us. Dustin entered with a stack of files. Sorry to interrupt, but Kayla, you need to see this. He handed me a printout, a social media post from Holly's private account, a photo of her trying on wedding dresses, caption reading, "Second time's the charm. Sorry, not sorry? Charming," Clara said, reading over my shoulder. Your replacement certainly has a way with words. She's not my replacement, I said, standing. She's my karma delivery system. Clara's lips twitched. Just keep it legal. And Kayla? She called as I reached the door. Make it count. In my office, Dustin closed the door. There's more. Holly's been telling people you're unstable and obsessed with Aston. Of course she has. I pulled up my email. Good thing I saved those messages where she begged me to help with her startup's legal issues, while she was sleeping with my husband. You're really going to do this? Dustin perched on my desk. Expose everything at their wedding? Why not? They're the ones who invited me to their special day. I showed him the dress design on my phone. Besides, I'm just sharing their own words. If they're ashamed of what they wrote, maybe they shouldn't have written it. My phone rang. Hope. Turn on the local news. Now. I grabbed the remote from my office TV. There was Holly, perfectly coiffed, giving an interview about her tech startup success story. And of course, she was saying, I couldn't have done it without the support of my fiancé, Aston. Sometimes love finds you in unexpected ways. Is she serious? Hope's voice crackled through the speaker. She's using your husband to promote her business. Ex-husband, I corrected. And she's making this too easy. Dustin was already typing on his tablet. The startup's financial records you helped with? They show some interesting transfers from Aston's accounts, dating back to when you were still married. Really? I felt a familiar legal thrill, the one that came with finding crucial evidence. How interesting. Kayla. Hope sounded worried. Don't do anything rash. Rash? No. Calculated? Absolutely. I watched Holly beam at the camera. You know what's funny? She always said her dream wedding would be her moment to shine. I'm just going to help make that dream come true. After hanging up, I noticed Dustin watching me. What? Nothing. Just... He smiled. You seem different lately. Stronger. Anger will do that. I turned off the TV. Or maybe I'm just done playing nice with people who don't deserve it. My computer pinged. An email from Madame Renee. The dress was ready for its final fitting, and she'd added something special. Under UV light, certain messages would glow. Perfect timing, I murmured. Their wedding venue is famous for its light shows. You're really going to light up their night, aren't you? Dustin grinned. Oh, yes. I saved Holly's interview for evidence. They wanted a wedding everyone would remember. I'm just making sure they get exactly what they asked for. The invitation sat on my desk, mocking me with its elegant script. 2 weeks to go. Just enough time to perfect every detail of their perfectly planned destruction. The envelope had no return address. I found it slipped under my office door when I arrived early Monday morning, 1 week before the wedding. Inside was a single sheet of paper with typed text. Holly's been lying about more than just the affair. Check the startup's employee records. A friend. My phone buzzed. Hope. Have you seen Holly's latest Instagram post? I pulled it up and nearly dropped my phone. There was Holly, posing in my old kitchen, wearing my favorite apron, with the caption, "Making breakfast for my love in our newly renovated home." Blessed. They'd moved into my house, the house I'd let Aston keep because I couldn't stand to live there after everything. "Good morning." Dustin's cheerful voice made me jump. He took one look at my face and froze. "What happened?" I handed him the anonymous note. "Looks like someone else wants to crash their party. Think it's legit? Only one way to find out." I pulled up Holly's company files, the ones I'd helped her organize months ago. "Help me look through these employee records." 2 hours and 3 cups of coffee later, we found it. "There," Dustin pointed at his screen. "These 3 employees, they don't exist, but they're all getting paid." "Ghost employees," I muttered. "Classic embezzlement scheme. And look who approved their hiring. Aston." Dustin whistled. "Your ex has been helping her steal from her investors." My office door opened. Clara strode in, looking unusually pleased. "The Winters case representatives are here. They want to meet their potential lead counsel." "Now?" I glanced at my messy desk. "Now?" Clara's tone left no room for argument. "Unless you're too distracted by personal matters." I stood straightening my jacket. "Personal matters are exactly why I'm perfect for this case." The conference room held 3 women, all carrying identical folders. The oldest, a sharp-eyed lady in her 60s, spoke first. "Ms. Thompson, we've been following your situation with interest." "My situation?" "Your very public divorce. Your ex-husband's upcoming wedding to your former friend." She smiled thinly. "We believe you understand what our clients are going through." "I understand betrayal," I said, sitting down. "I understand how it feels to have someone steal your life while you're busy building it." "Exactly." She opened her folder. "We represent over 300 women who've been defrauded by their spouses. We need someone who can make their stories heard." "I can do more than that." I pulled out my tablet. "I can show you how to prove it." An hour later, Clara caught me in the hallway. "Well done. The partners are impressed." "Thanks, but you're still planning something for that wedding, aren't you?" She lowered her voice. "Just remember, whatever you do reflects on this firm." "Trust me," I smiled. "Everything I do will be completely legal." Back in my office, Hope was waiting. "We have a problem. Holly's mother called me." "What? Why?" "She wants to know if you're really coming to the wedding. Apparently, Holly's been having anxiety attacks about it." "Good." I checked my phone. Another message from the anonymous source. "Ask Holly about the Paris trip last year. The one Aston said was for business." "That's it." I grabbed my keys. "Hope, come with me. We need to visit my old house." "What? Why?" "Because I left something in the study. Something Holly won't want anyone to find." 20 minutes later, we pulled up to my former home. Through the window, I could see new curtains. My curtains had been cream. These were burgundy. "You still have a key?" Hope asked. "Better." I pulled out my phone. "I have the security code. And since Aston never changed it." Inside, everything was different, yet familiar. Pictures of Holly and Aston replaced our photos. Her shoes by the door, her coat on my hook. "The study," I whispered. "Quick." In the bottom drawer of the desk, behind a false panel, I found it. My old travel journal. The one where I'd noted every time Aston said he was on a business trip. Got it. I flipped to last year's entries. Now let's see where he really was in Paris. And who paid for it. Walking out, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. I looked exactly like what I was. A woman done playing nice. The wedding was in 6 days, and I had all the ammunition I needed. The wedding venue glittered like a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, and a state-of-the-art lighting system that would soon serve my purposes perfectly. "Ready?" Hope squeezed my hand as we walked in. "Born ready." I adjusted my midnight blue dress, feeling the weight of their secrets against my skin. Heads turned as we entered. I caught snippets of whispered conversations. Can't believe she came, and so inappropriate. And, did you hear what Holly said about her? Dustin appeared at my elbow, looking sharp in his tuxedo. Your seat is in the back, but I've arranged for you to be moved up front during the reception, near the microphone. Perfect. I scanned the room, spotting Aston's mother, Samara, holding court with her friends. She saw me and nearly dropped her champagne glass. Kayla? A familiar voice made me turn. Stephen, Aston's biggest investor, stood there looking uncomfortable. I didn't expect to see you here. Stephen, how's the startup investment going? Making good returns? He shifted nervously. Actually, I've been meaning to look over the books more carefully. You should. I smiled sweetly, very carefully. The wedding planner began herding people to their seats. As I sat down, I noticed Holly's mother watching me anxiously from the front row. I gave her a small wave. The lighting test went perfectly, Dustin whispered. The UV kicks in during their first dance. Music swelled. The doors opened. Holly appeared in a massive white dress, looking like every bride's Pinterest board come to life. Her smile faltered when she saw me. She's shaking, Hope murmured. Good. The ceremony was a blur of fake smiles and meaningful glances. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, I simply checked my phone, making sure Holly saw me do it. At the reception, I watched them perform their first dance. Holly's dress sparkled under the regular lights. She had no idea what mine would do under different ones. Attention, everyone! The wedding planner clinked her glass. We'll now hear from some special guests. First up, I stood, smoothing my dress. Actually, I'd like to say something. The room went silent. Holly grabbed Aston's arm. He looked like he might be sick. Kayla, he started, but I was already walking to the microphone. Don't worry, I said into the mic, my voice carrying clearly through the perfect acoustics. I just want to tell a story about love, lies, and unfinished business. The lights dimmed slightly, right on cue. Dustin had done his job perfectly. You see, I believe in karma, I continued. I believe that what goes around comes around. And sometimes, I gestured to the DJ who hit the switch for the UV lights. It comes around in unexpected ways. Gasps filled the room as my dress began to glow. The messages, invisible until now, lit up like a constellation of betrayal. For those in the back, I said pleasantly, let me read some highlights. Here's one from last October. Holly, last night was amazing. Kayla has no idea. Stop this, Aston stood up, but Stephen pulled him back down, looking furious. Or this gem from Holly. Once the startup money comes through, we can finally be together. I turned to Stephen. Speaking of money, you might want to ask about those 3 employees who don't exist but keep getting paid. Holly's face went from red to white. You had no right to what? Keep evidence? Or to wear it to your wedding? I touched my dress. Every word here is yours. I'm just making sure everyone sees them. Samara stood up, pointing at me. Security! Remove her! I wouldn't, Dustin called out. Unless you want a lawsuit for assaulting an invited guest. The room erupted in chaos. Holly ran out crying. Aston tried to follow but was cornered by Stephen demanding answers about the company finances. I stepped away from the microphone, my dress still glowing with their secrets. Well, Hope appeared beside me, grinning. I think that's what they call making an entrance. No? I watched as Holly's mother began arguing with Samara, while the wedding planner frantically tried to restore order. That's what they call karma. The UV lights caught every message, every lie, every betrayal, turning them into art for all to see. And this was just the beginning. You can't just leave it like this. Holly's voice cracked as she stormed back into the reception hall, mascara streaming down her face. You've ruined everything. I ruined everything? I turned to face her, my dress still glowing with her own words. Let's read another message, shall we? This one's from last Christmas, when you were supposedly visiting your sick aunt. Don't, she whispered. Missing you so much, baby. I read from the pattern on my sleeve. Kayla's working late again. Come over. Aston pushed through the crowd. That's enough. Oh, I'm just getting started. I nodded to Dustin, who connected his tablet to the venue's projection system. Let's talk about Paris. The screen lit up with hotel receipts, flight bookings, and restaurant charges, all from my old travel journal dates. All paid for with startup funds. Stephen stepped forward, his face red. You used company money for your affair? It's not what you think, Holly stammered. We can explain. Explain what? I projected my voice to reach the back of the room. How you embezzled from your investors. How you created fake employees to siphon funds. Or how about explaining this? The next slide showed transfer records from my joint account with Aston, dated before our divorce. That's privileged information, Aston shouted. Actually, Dustin stood up, legal papers in hand. As a founding partner in Holly's startup and a victim of fraud, Kayla has every right to present this evidence. Holly's mother collapsed into a chair. Holly, what have you done? What I had to do. Holly spun to face the shocked crowd. You don't understand. Kayla had everything. The perfect career, the perfect husband. She didn't deserve it. Deserve it? I laughed. I worked 80-hour weeks while you were sleeping with my husband. I helped build your company while you were stealing from it. Tell me again what I didn't deserve. Security, Samara called again. But the guards looked uncertainly at Dustin, who calmly held up his phone showing he was recording everything. You know what's funny? I continued, walking closer to Holly. You could have just asked for a divorce, Aston. Instead, you chose to humiliate me, to betray me with my best friend. And then you had the audacity to invite me to watch you marry her. We thought, Aston swallowed hard. We thought it would show there were no hard feelings. No hard feelings? I gestured to my glowing dress. How are you feeling now? The crowd had their phones out, recording everything. In the corner, I saw Stephen on his phone, probably calling his lawyers. You've destroyed us, Holly whispered. No, you destroyed yourselves. I'm just turning on the lights. I turned to address the guests. Check your phones. You'll find I've sent each of you proof of every word I've said. Every message, every receipt, every lie. You can't do this. Samara rushed forward but stopped short when Hope stepped between us. Actually, Hope smiled, she can. And she did. Now, about that Paris trip. I think we've seen enough. Stephen's voice cut through the chaos. Holly, consider your company under investigation. Aston, expect to hear from my attorneys. Holly crumpled to the floor, her white dress pooling around her like surrendered dreams. Aston stood frozen, watching his carefully constructed world implode. You know what the worst part is? I said, my voice softer now. I would have forgiven an affair, but you tried to make me think I was crazy. You gaslighted me, manipulated me, and then expected me to smile at your wedding. Please, Holly reached for my hand. We can fix this. I stepped back, letting the UV lights catch every damning word on my dress. You can't fix betrayal. You can only expose it. The wedding planner appeared, wringing her hands. Should I cancel the dinner service? Oh no, I smiled, heading for the exit. Let them eat cake. I hear revenge tastes sweeter. At the door, I turned back one last time. Holly sat sobbing in her ruined dress. Aston stood shell-shocked as Stephen berated him, and Samara argued frantically with the other guests who were already sharing the videos online. Ready to go? Dustin appeared at my side. Almost. I raised my voice one last time. By the way, Holly, you can keep the house. I've got something better. The truth. 3 million views and counting, Hope announced, dropping her phone on my desk. Your wedding crash has officially gone viral. It had been a week since the reception. My inbox was flooded with messages from women sharing their own stories of betrayal. The video had spawned hundreds of reaction videos, think pieces, and memes. Have you seen the latest? Dustin walked in, waving a newspaper. Holly's startup investors are filing a class action lawsuit. I know, I smiled. They called me yesterday. They want me to represent them. Of course they do. Clara appeared in my doorway. Which is why we're giving you the corner office. I blinked. What? The partners voted this morning. You're being promoted to senior partner. She tossed a key onto my desk. The Winters case representatives were very impressed by your dramatic flair for justice. Speaking of drama, Hope scrolled through her phone. Aston's mother is on the local news claiming you orchestrated a malicious attack on her family. Really? I leaned back in my chair. Show me. The clip showed Samara, perfectly coiffed despite her obvious distress, speaking to reporters. Kayla deliberately humiliated my son and his bride on their special day. This was a vindictive... Turn it off, Dustin interrupted. You need to see this instead. He pulled up an email on his tablet. It was from Stephen, Aston's former investor. Ms. Thompson, your actions exposed more than just personal betrayal. Our forensic accountants have uncovered systematic fraud across multiple companies. Would you consider representing our shareholders? Looks like karma's working overtime, Hope grinned. My phone buzzed. A text from Holly. Please, can we talk? I can explain everything. Don't respond, Clara advised, reading over my shoulder. Let the lawyers handle it. Actually, I stood up, gathering my files. I am the lawyer handling it. The difference is, this time I'm getting paid for dealing with their mess. A knock at the door made us all turn. A delivery man stood there with a massive bouquet of white lilies. From someone named Dustin, he read from the card. I raised an eyebrow at Dustin, who suddenly looked very interested in his shoes. The flowers are beautiful, I said after everyone else had left. But why? Because you deserve them. He stepped closer. Because you turned betrayal into triumph. Because you're incredible. Dustin, I know. Bad timing. He backed away slightly. But when you're ready, I'd like to take you to dinner. Somewhere without any wedding decorations. Before I could respond, Hope burst back in. You need to see this. Holly just posted a public apology. We crowded around her phone. There was Holly, makeup-free and subdued, speaking directly to camera. I want to apologize to Kayla. What we did was unforgivable. The truth is, I was jealous. She earned everything she had, while I... Turn it off, I said quietly. It's too late for apologies. What are you going to do about the house? Hope asked. They can't afford the mortgage now that the startup's imploding. Let them keep it. I walked to the window of what would soon be my new office. I've got better things to build. Clara reappeared with a stack of files. The Winters case depositions start Monday. You ready? Born ready. I took the files. Those women deserve justice, and I know exactly how to get it for them. And the media attention? She pressed. Your wedding video is trending worldwide. Good. I sat down at my desk. Let it show everyone what happens when you underestimate the wrong woman. Dustin lingered in the doorway. About that dinner? Friday, I said, not looking up from the files. Pick me up at 7. And Dustin, thank you. For everything. After everyone left, I opened my laptop to find hundreds of new messages. Women sharing their stories, asking for help, calling me their hero. I clicked reply to the first one. You're not alone, and neither am I. Let's get justice together. My phone buzzed one last time. Another text from Holly. I'm sorry. I really am. I deleted it without responding. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Sometimes they need to burn so you can see the path forward more clearly. And my path? It was lit up brighter than ever. All rise, the bailiff called out. Court is now in session. I stood at the plaintiff's table, surrounded by 300 women who'd been betrayed just like me. The Winters class action had become the largest spousal fraud case in state history. "How are you so calm?" Hope whispered from her seat behind me. "Because we're going to win." The courtroom doors burst open. Holly rushed in, ignoring the bailiff's protests. "Kayla, please, you have to stop this." "Remove her," the judge ordered, but I held up my hand. "Actually, Your Honor, I'd like Mrs. Rivera to stay. She might find today's testimony enlightening." Holly sank into a back row seat as I approached the podium. The familiar weight of my midnight blue dress, yes, that dress, gave me strength. "Your Honor, this case isn't just about money. It's about trust. About the systematic way these women were deceived by the people who promised to protect them." I gestured to the plaintiffs. "Each of these women has a story. Of accounts drained, of homes mortgaged without their knowledge, of businesses built on their backs while they were kept in the dark." From the gallery, I heard Dustin's encouraging cough. He'd helped prepare every document, check every detail. The defense claims these are private matters, family disputes, but fraud doesn't become legal just because you're married to the perpetrator. I pulled up the first exhibit, familiar bank statements and transfer records. I know because I lived it. My ex-husband and his new wife didn't just betray my trust. They stole from investors. They created fake employees. They built their relationship on a foundation of lies and theft. Holly stood up again. "That's not—" "Sit down," the judge warned. "Continue, counselor. The evidence will show a pattern. Not just of infidelity, but of calculated deception. These women aren't just victims of broken hearts. They're victims of broken laws." I clicked to the next slide. The viral video from the wedding, my dress glowing with evidence. Sometimes the truth needs a spotlight. Today we're turning on all the lights. The defense attorney jumped up. "Objection. This is theatrical." "Overruled," the judge cut in. "Proceed." For the next hour, I presented our case. With each testimony, each piece of evidence, Holly seemed to shrink further into her seat. Finally, I turned to face the entire courtroom. "Your Honor, we're not asking for revenge. We're asking for justice, for accountability, for recognition that marriage vows aren't just about love. They're about trust. And when that trust is broken for financial gain, there must be consequences." The judge leaned forward. "And what consequences do you propose?" "Full restitution, criminal charges where appropriate, and a legal precedent that will make others think twice before using marriage as a mask for fraud." After I sat down, Hope squeezed my shoulder. "That was amazing." "Indeed it was," the judge said, surprising us all. "This court has heard enough to proceed to trial. Additionally, given the evidence presented, I'm issuing an immediate freeze on all defendants' assets." Holly burst into tears and ran out. Through the windows, I could see reporters waiting with cameras. "Kayla?" One of the plaintiffs touched my arm. "Thank you for showing us we're not alone." Dustin appeared at my side as the courtroom emptied. "Dinner to celebrate?" "Actually," I smiled, "I have other plans." Later that evening, I stood in my new office, watching the sunset paint the city gold. Hope lounged on my couch, scrolling through news coverage. "Look at this headline. Wedding dress warrior leads landmark fraud case. You're officially a legend." "I'm officially tired," I laughed, but it felt good. Clean. A knock at the door revealed Clara. "The partners want to create a new division, specializing in spousal fraud cases. They want you to lead it." "Of course they do." I turned back to the window. "Tell them yes." After she left, Dustin poked his head in. "Still on for dinner?" "Absolutely." I gathered my things, catching my reflection in the window. The woman looking back wasn't broken anymore. She was rebuilt, stronger. "You know what they say," Hope called as we left. "Success is the best revenge." "No," I said, taking Dustin's hand. Truth is the best revenge. Success is just the bonus. The elevator doors closed on my old life, but I wasn't looking back. When they handed me the mic at that wedding, they didn't know I'd be writing their ending all along. And what an ending it was.